think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests, because that's
I'm also interested in what you just said now, was that you would stand next to anyone who has this. So, Mr. Shapiro, my question to you.
This wasn't just some random student pushing the white privilege talking point. This was Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, and Ben Shapiro still dismantled the argument in real time. That detail matters. Because once you know the questioner is Stacey Plaskett, a sitting member of Congress, this exchange gets even more revealing. Plaskett tries to dress up white privilege as an innocent academic concept. She claims it's just about societal advantages, not silencing anyone. But Shapiro immediately exposes the trick. The moment you tell people their skin color gives them unearned authority, or makes their views less valid, you're no longer debating ideas. You're attacking identity. And that's not accidental. That's the strategy. Shapiro makes his position painfully clear: if you want to point to real racism, real crimes, real victims, he'll stand right beside you and fight it. No hesitation. No qualifiers. That's a moral position grounded in reality. But Plaskett doesn't want that conversation. Then Plaskett tries the gotcha moment and it backfires instantly.
Mr. Shapiro, you talked about white privilege, and just this week I had a conversation with Rachel Lazar, who's done some work, a Jewish American woman who's done some work on this area, as well as having extensive conversations with Dr. Greg Parks of Wake Forest University, who's also talked quite a bit about critical race theory. And it's my understanding that white privilege is not telling individuals that they cannot speak, but it is a term for societal privilege that individuals have as a benefit of their white skin. And I don't think that, and I think universities would be remiss to then say that because you're white, you're not allowed to say anything that's critical of white people. I didn't know that white privilege actually went into that sphere. My understanding is it's just, and the issue is that white privilege makes people uncomfortable to talk about the societal privilege that they have.
Well, to me, what I say on campuses all the time is, if you want to cite instances of racism that we can all find and fight together, that's something that I'm more than willing to stand next to you and fight, because that's obviously stuff that we should fight together. But when you just say that there is a white privilege out there in the ether and that by dint of birth your skin color generates for you an advantage, what you're really saying to people is that your view is less valuable because you have not experienced what I've experienced. And that is an identity argument, that's a character argument, that's not a rational political argument that can actually be taken on in any way. It's more of a cudgel and a club than it is an attempt to open a discussion.
Well, I think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests, because that's
I'm also interested in what you just said now, was that you would stand next to anyone who has this. So, Mr. Shapiro, my question to you is, for Ms. Dunston, the tying the noose around the campus and writing messages that target African-American young students, would you consider that hate speech, and then would you stand next to her and fight for her?
As I say, I would. This is the first I'm hearing about it, honestly. But
really,
yeah. But from hearing about it, maybe because it's local. I mean, I'm from LA. But in any case, I'm more than happy to stand alongside her and fight whatever group was responsible for this. Not only more than happy. I mean, you're talking about the alt-right. Again, I was the #1 target of anti-Semitic harassment from the alt-right last year. So I'm more than happy to do all that. And I think there's one more distinction that has to be made. When we talk about cases like Taylor's, they're horrific, and the administration is siding with Taylor. Okay, the administration is doing the right thing by Taylor, or trying to do the right thing by Taylor, as they should be. And I think that we need to make a distinction between cases where the administration is actively participating in the suppression of speech and cases in which the administration is trying to do the right thing in order to punish people for application of crime.
Plaskett represents the modern left perfectly here. She wants identity to determine truth. She wants emotion to outrank reason. She wants power to decide who gets a voice. Shapiro reminds everyone watching what conservatives still believe. Arguments matter. Facts matter. And your skin color does not decide whether your ideas are allowed to exist. That's why this exchange still hits. And that's why they hate him for it. This exchange boils down to 3 simple truths, and every one of them exposes the left's playbook. First, Stacey Plaskett wasn't asking a question. She was advancing an ideology. White privilege isn't presented as a topic for debate, it's presented as a verdict. Once that label is applied, your argument is dismissed before you even open your mouth. Second, Ben Shapiro draws a hard, clear line the left refuses to acknowledge. Real racism, real threats, real crimes, real victims, must be condemned and punished. Period. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't cave. That destroys the lie that conservatives ignore racism. Third, and this is the key point. The danger isn't fighting racism. The danger is using identity as a weapon to decide who's allowed to speak. When universities or politicians elevate lived experience over logic, debate dies. Free speech dies. And power replaces truth. In the end, this wasn't about protecting students. It wasn't about stopping hate. It was about control. Plaskett represents a movement that wants identity to outrank ideas. Shapiro represents the belief that arguments stand or fall on merit, not melanin. That's the real divide. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.